Diagrams are very useful to convey complicated processes. For example, a picture says 1,000 words. Let's insert a new page and have a look at diagrams. To insert a new page, I'm just going to go to the Insert tab in the ribbon and click the Page button to get page 5. What I now want to do is insert some shapes. So from the Insert tab in the ribbon and in the Illustrations group, I've got a Shapes button. And I can click this button and I can choose to insert some lines, some basic shapes, some block arrows, some flowchart shapes, call-out shapes, or stars and banners. Let's start with just a basic shape, a rectangle. When I rest on this shape, it tells me this is a rectangle. So I click it, move my mouse over to the page, and now I drag to create the rectangle with the height and the width I desire. And there's my rectangle. When you draw a rectangle with the Shift key held down, it creates a perfect square. So now I want to insert another rectangle. I could go back to the Insert tab and back to the Shapes button, but notice I'm now in the Drawing Tools Format tab and I have a palette of shapes I can insert here. What I'd like to do is find rectangle. So I rest on the buttons and there's the rectangle there, so I click it. When I hold the Shift key down and drag, I get a perfect square without trying to make it perfect. The Shift key just ensures that I have 4 90-degree angles in a perfect square. If I went to draw an ellipse, I'll go back to my shapes and I'll look for an ellipse or an oval. Here it is here. An oval or an ellipse is like an egg. But if I draw the same shape holding the Shift key down, I'll get a perfect 360-degree circle. So I'll choose oval, hold the Shift and drag, and I get a perfect circle with very little effort. If I draw a line or an arrow of any description in this collection, I can put it at any angle I like. So I'll choose line and I'll drag and I can choose any angle. But if I hold the Shift key down, I'll get a perfectly straight line without having to concentrate too much. So the Shift key makes shapes a perfect square, a perfect circle, or a perfectly straight line. Now once you insert a shape, you just click on the shape and you just start typing your text in the shape. You can right click the shape and you can add text, but it's just as easy just to click on the shape and start typing. You can also format the shape in a variety of ways. And so what we do is we click on the shape itself and we've got the Drawing Tools Format tab showing up in the ribbon. And there's a various collection of shape styles. And I can choose from these styles here. Or I could format it manually. If I click on this shape, I could go to Shape Fill and choose a fill color. I could go to Shape Outline and choose an outline color. And I could even increase the width or the weight of that outline. And I can even change the shape to any other shape. I can add shadow effects. And I can change the shadow and add 3D effects as well, much like we've done with other objects. I can also change the height and the width, or just resize it manually. If I go for the little green circle at the top, I can also rotate a shape in any direction I want. You can also format the text inside of a shape. If I click on this shape, for example, I can go to Text Box Tools Format because there's text in the shape. I might decide that I want to change the text, so actually I might go to the Home tab in the ribbon. And I need to select the text. Here I can change the font, as we have done in many instances up till now, to Arial. I can change the font size. I can center it. I can change the font color. And all sorts of options. And I can make it bold. There are also options, as I mentioned, under the Text Box Tools Format tab. A lot of the same options that were under Home, but there are extra options as well, such as aligning it not only horizontally to the center, but vertically to the center. Adding shadow, adding embossed, engraved, and other options as well, like outline. What I'd like to do now is actually delete all these shapes and create a flowchart. So I'm just going to drag around these shapes and do what they call lassoing. Lassoing allows you to collect a group of shapes in a certain area. Alternatively, I could press Ctrl A and select all the shapes that way, or I could hold the Shift key and choose the shapes I wanted to collect. But ultimately I want to delete these shapes, so I'm just going to press the Delete key on my keyboard. I'd now like to insert some flowchart shapes, so I'm going to go Insert, Shapes, and head to the flowchart group. And I'm going to start with the Terminator. And I just drag and create my shape. Now I'll go to the Insert Shapes palette and choose some more flowchart shapes, like a decision. As I resize and move a shape, often you see these little lines. That's telling me the decision is aligned to the right hand side of the shape above. And as I move the shape around, now it's in the center of the shape above, and now it's heading towards the left. So it actually helps you line things up. I'm just going to line it through the center. I'm now going to add another flowchart shape. Let's grab multiple documents. Now I know that it's both on the right and the left of the shape above. I might now add another shape, line it up, and some more shapes. I might actually copy this shape, so I'm just going to go Ctrl C and Ctrl V to copy and paste this particular shape and line it up. And then one more shape. Now what I'd like to do is create connections between these shapes. So I'm going to go back to Insert and back to Shapes, and this time choose an arrow and drag from one point to the other. This time I'm using an arrow with an elbow in it, and this enables me to create this elbow effect. And then I'm ready to simply add my text. So I'll click in the first box and just type Start. Now I want to make sure that all the boxes have the same font and the same font size, so I'm going to press Ctrl A. I'll then go to the Home tab and I'll decide that, I'll just select the text Start and I'll make it Arial and grow the font size and maybe center it and change the colour of it. And there's my text. And you would simply go to each shape and add your text in.